What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Thursday, September 16th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, we have a 4-game slate tonight. So let's take a look at the pitcher position. I like Framber Valdez pitching against a low salary batting team, the Texas Rangers. Framber Valdez is only giving up a .653 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 6 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Rangers have only hit 9 of his last 42 pitches. That's a .214 batting average. He's 10,100 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. He's projected at 34.7 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 3.26. His record is 10-5 on the season, pitching an average of 96 pitches per game, averaging 34 fantasy points per game. He scored 27, 18, and 46 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Framber Valdez here versus the Texas Rangers. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. Now, if Trey Mancini plays here tonight, I like Trey Mancini, but you gotta check your lineup before the game starts because he's been out for the previous 2 games with right abdominal soreness. So if he's gonna play tonight, I like Trey Mancini with a 53% batting advantage over Jordan Montgomery. Trey Mancini is batting 25% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .930 OPS versus lefties, and Jordan Montgomery, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 28% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .762 OPS versus righties. Now, I like this pick because Trey Mancini is 9 for 21, batting a .429 batting average and a 1.091 OPS versus Montgomery. And he's only 3,100 FanDuel salary. He's projected at 11 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. In the last game that he played, he scored 18 fantasy points. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So if he does play here tonight, I like Trey Mancini here versus Jordan Montgomery. Now, I also like Yandy Diaz with a 42% batting advantage over Tyler Alexander. Yandy Diaz, he bats a little bit better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .772 OPS versus lefties. And Tyler Alexander, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 41% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .909 OPS versus righties. So Yandy Diaz is 1 for 1 with a 2 OPS versus Alexander, and he's 2,800 FanDuel salary and 1,100 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 0, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Yandy Diaz here versus Tyler Alexander.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I got a value play for you. I like Ramon Urias with a 31% batting advantage over Jordan Montgomery. Ramon Urias, he's batting 3% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .894 OPS versus lefties. And Jordan Montgomery, he pitches 28% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .762 OPS versus righties. So he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters. And Ramon Urias is 2 for 5, batting .400 with a .900 OPS versus Montgomery. Now I like this pick because he's only $2,200 FanDuel salary. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 3, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And he's projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Ramon Urias here versus Jordan Montgomery. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I got another value play for you. I like Gio Urshela with a 21% batting advantage over Chris Ellis. Gio Urshela is batting 8% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .782 OPS versus righties. And Chris Ellis, he's pitching 14% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .649 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Ellis yet, and Gio Urshela is only $2,400 FanDuel salary, projected at 9.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 22, 9, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Gio Urshela here versus Chris Ellis. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. Another value play for you. I'm stacking up on the value plays because I want to load up on my outfielders. So I like Didi Gregorius with a 21% batting advantage over Kyle Hendricks. Didi Gregorius is batting 17% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .771 OPS versus righties. And Kyle Hendricks, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a .768 OPS versus lefties. Now, Didi Gregorius is 0 for 2 versus Hendricks, but he's only $2,500 FanDuel salary, $1,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 10 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 10, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Didi Gregorius here versus Kyle Hendricks.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the outfield position. This is where I'm going to spend most of my salary. I like Bryce Harper with a 21% batting advantage over Kyle Hendricks. Bryce Harper is batting 17% better versus righty pitchers, batting a 1.051 OPS versus righties. And Kyle Hendricks, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a .768 OPS versus lefties. So Bryce Harper is 7 for 24, batting a .292 batting average and a .787 OPS versus Hendricks. He's $4,500 FanDuel salary, $1,200 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 14 fantasy points per game on the season. And he's been on fire, scoring 21, 16, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Bryce Harper here versus Kyle Hendricks. Okay, now my favorite pick on the slate. Here's my dong of the day, my home run hitter. I like Nelson Cruz with a 70% batting advantage over Tyler Alexander. Nelson Cruz is batting 29% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.179 OPS versus lefties. And Tyler Alexander, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 41% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .909 OPS versus righties. Nelson Cruz is 4 for 9, batting a .444 batting average, and a 1.111 OPS versus Alexander. He's 4,200 FanDuel salary, 1,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 15.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 6, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games, so I think he's due for a big game here tonight. So I like Nelson Cruz here versus Tyler Alexander. Okay, one of my second favorite picks, I also like Randy Orrazarina with a 76% batting advantage over Tyler Alexander. Randy Orrazarina is batting 35% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.196 OPS versus lefties. And we know Tyler Alexander, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 41% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .909 OPS versus righties. So there's no at-bats versus Alexander yet, but Randy Orrazarina is only 3,600 FanDuel salary and only 800 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites. I like the idea of stacking both Randy Orrazarina and Nelson Cruz into the same lineup. And Randy is projected at 16.1 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 9, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Randy Orrazarina here versus Tyler Alexander. Now I also like Kyle Tucker with a 57% batting advantage over Glenn Otto. Kyle Tucker is batting 16% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .915 OPS versus righties. And Glenn Otto, he pitches his worst ball by far to lefty batters, 41% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .938 OPS versus lefties. Now Kyle Tucker is 0 for 2 versus Otto, but the splits are fantastic, and he's 3,400 FanDuel salary, 1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 34, 3, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Kyle Tucker here versus Glenn Otto. I also like Akil Baddoo with a 44% batting advantage over Luis Head. Akil Baddoo bats 42% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .846 OPS versus righties. And Luis Head, he's giving up a .554 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Head yet, and he's 2,900 FanDuel salary, 800 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 0, and 12 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Akil Baddoo here versus Luis Head.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.